The town of Marrowfield was the kind of place that never made it onto maps for long, a forgotten settlement surrounded by endless marshes and thick woods that never seemed to let the light in. People lived quietly, minds dulled by the gray fog that rolled through each morning, and no one ever questioned why the earth sometimes seemed to move beneath their feet. Among these weary faces was Evelyn Crow, a 26-year-old entomologist who had returned to her childhood home after her mother's mysterious death. Her mother had been the local pest controller, a woman obsessed with bugs and soil, often muttering about something beneath us before her voice faded into silence. Evelyn came back not for closure, but for understanding. She wanted to know why her mother's fingernails were filled with dirt when she died clutching the floorboards. The air smelled of damp wood and decay when Evelyn unlocked the creaking house. The walls pulsed with age, and the sound of crawling soft, rhythmic, alive, seemed to whisper from within the wooden beams. At first, she thought it was just termites, but when she leaned close, she heard it again, a skittering language, like a chorus of tiny legs drumming a message. Evelyn set up her microscope in the study, collecting soil samples from beneath the floorboards. The dirt was wrong, thick and black, almost breathing. Each grain shimmered under the lens, alive with microscopic movement. She watched, fascinated and horrified, as something like a vein pulsed through the soil, expanding when she leaned closer. That night, she dreamt of her mother standing barefoot in the yard, whispering, "Don't dig, Evelyn. It wakes when it feels warmth." The next morning, Evelyn awoke to a faint trail of dirt leading from her bed to the window. Outside, something had dug up her mother's old garden, rows of holes that looked disturbingly like bite marks in the earth. She brushed it off as an animal, though unease prickled her skin. As the days passed, the sounds beneath the floor grew louder. It was no longer a quiet crawl. It was a constant churning, like something massive turning in its sleep. The neighbors began to avoid her house, murmuring old legends about the creeping one, a creature said to live under the town, feeding on warmth and fear. Evelyn laughed it off until she saw her first glimpse of it. It happened one night while she was studying her samples. The lamp flickered, and the room darkened as if the light had been swallowed. A slow ripple moved across the wall, bending the wood as if it were soft clay. Then she saw it, a pale, translucent limb, jointed like an insect's, but too large, too human. It dragged itself across the ceiling, leaving behind a slimy residue that hissed when it touched the air. Evelyn froze, her breath caught halfway between a scream and disbelief. The thing paused above her, its many legs splaying outward in silence, before melting back into the cracks between the boards. For the first time, she felt truly watched. Over the following nights, Evelyn stopped sleeping. She could feel the vibrations through the floor as it crawled beneath her. She could hear the wet slithering when it fed. On what? She dared not imagine. Then came the smell, a sweet, metallic scent like rotting honey. The townspeople began to vanish, one by one. Their homes remained untouched, their doors locked from inside, but the floors were always broken open, as if something had emerged to claim them. Evelyn tried to warn the sheriff, but his eyes were hollow, his voice distant. "It's been here long before us," he said flatly. "Your mother tried to stop it. Now it knows your name." That night, Evelyn dug through her mother's journals. Inside were sketches of an enormous creature beneath the earth, its body a labyrinth of limbs, its face a swarm of eyes. Notes filled the margins. It grows with warmth. It follows movement. It listens. There was one final line scribbled violently across the last page. "The only way to stop it is to become colder than death itself." Evelyn took those words as madness until the temperature in her house began to rise unnaturally. The air felt thick, humid. Mold spread in hours, not days. Her thermometer cracked at 120 degrees Fahrenheit. She realized with dread that the creature was feeding, draining heat from everything above ground. It was waking fully now. One evening, she went to the cellar. The sound below was deafening, a wet, rhythmic heartbeat shaking the foundation. She descended, lantern trembling in hand, and found the soil breathing. It swelled upward like a lung. She knelt and pressed her ear to it, hearing whispers beneath the dirt. Her mother's voice calling her name, the sheriff's voice, dozens of others blending into one monstrous chorus. "Join us, Evelyn." Then the ground split open, revealing a tunnel lined with glistening web-like strands. She was pulled by both terror and curiosity, stepping down into the dark. The tunnel walls were alive, pulsing veins carrying black ichor. At the end of the passage, the space widened into a massive underground chamber, where the creature coiled like a living mountain. Its form defied logic, an endless amalgamation of legs, eyes, and gaping maws that crawled across itself like an ocean of flesh. When it turned toward her, the air went silent. The creature spoke not with sound, but with movement, the crawling of its body forming words in her mind. You brought the warmth. You will feed the root. Evelyn realized it wasn't killing. It was consuming life to sustain the land above. The town's survival was the cost. Her mother had tried to freeze it, to starve it, but failed. Evelyn stumbled backward as the thing extended a limb toward her, its surface covered in human faces that whispered her name. She ran, slipping on the mucus-slick floor, scrambling up the tunnel as the creature followed, its hundreds of legs clattering like thunder. She burst into her house, slamming the door, but the floor began to bulge upward, as if the entire foundation were breathing beneath her. Desperate, she remembered her mother's words. Coldness was the key. She tore open the old freezer in the kitchen, dumping its contents across the floor, praying the cold would slow it. The bulging paused for a heartbeat, then continued. She screamed, dragging more ice, smashing windows to let the winter air pour in. The creature's limbs punched through the floorboards, splintering wood, reaching for her legs. Evelyn grabbed a can of insecticide and sprayed wildly. It sizzled on the creature's flesh, making it recoil for a moment. Then the voice returned, stronger. We fed you. Now feed us. The house began to collapse. Evelyn ran outside into the fog-drenched street, her breath freezing midair. Behind her, the house imploded as the ground sank inward, a giant hole yawning open. From its depths, the creature screamed, a sound that was neither animal nor human, but an ancient lament that shook the sky. She ran until her legs gave out, collapsing near the old church at the edge of town. When she looked back, Marrowfield was gone. Only the fog remained, covering the hole like a grave. Days later, a rescue team arrived, finding no trace of a town, just endless marshland and a single woman muttering about the warmth beneath. They took Evelyn to a hospital miles away, where she sat by the window, staring at the sunlight. The nurses thought she was recovering until one of them noticed soil dripping from her hands, her nails filled with black earth. She smiled faintly and whispered, "It followed." That night, the power went out in the entire hospital. The nurses heard scratching in the walls, the same soft rhythm, like tiny legs drumming in unison. When they entered Evelyn's room, her bed was empty, just a trail of dark soil leading to the vent. The camera footage showed nothing but movement, small, quick blurs crawling across the lens. By morning, the hospital floor had collapsed into a crater. The investigation was closed without explanation, labeled as a structural failure. Months later, new construction began over the site. Workers complained of strange heat rising from the ground and tools disappearing overnight. One worker, shoveling deeper than the rest, struck something soft that bled when the blade hit. They said it was a tree root. They were wrong. Underneath, something shifted, slowly, patiently, feeling the warmth of new life above. And if one listened closely to the wind that night, you could hear it crawling again, waiting for the next name to call.